many people from my old legislative district, a lot of Bayport folks here, if you were Holbrook or Sable or Ronkonkoma, I probably knocked on your door. I knocked on a lot of doors over the time. And when I did, I heard the same thing. And it didn't matter if the homeowner was a Democrat, Republican, or independent. What are you going to do about these taxes? They're driving me out of here. And this was going back to 1985 when I first knocked on a door. So I knocked on doors more than most other politicians. So I got, as Kramer from Seinfeld would say, the Kavorka. It was the pulse of the public. And my former chief deputy Ed Dumas down there, we talked about that all the time when I was county executive. It's getting a feel for what the people are going through. And I became very concerned about what was happening with property taxes, with income taxes, with sales taxes. You want to open up a business, they cripple you. And you're seeing now, and by the way, obviously, this is all about my chapter on taxes. With the campaigns going on right now, it's devolving into class warfare. And there seems to be a hatred on many fronts against people who have succeeded, against companies, the mean corporations. And their answer is, let's just tax them to death. Let's just tax all those rich people, and we'll have all this money, and the rest of the public, the 99%, they'll be so much better off. And what I say in my chapter is, that's a lot of bunk. First of all, the concept of they don't pay their fair share, okay? Let's look at the top 1%, and these aren't, but a lot of people in this room in the top 1%, by the way, if you're making about $250,000, $300,000, that's pretty close to the top 1%, because most people are making, $70,000 for their family or whatever. Well, let's talk about even the billionaires, the multi-billionaires. Take all their money, it's still not gonna matter. You'll take their money once, and then you're out of their money, and you still have to pay for all those programs that you put in place over time, okay? But if I asked you, what percent of the revenues that come into the federal government, what percent of the revenues through taxes come into the state of New York? What percent of the revenues go into the coffers of New York City from the top 1%? What do you think that percentage would be? Anybody want to throw out a number? How much? 2%? 3%? How about 40%? 40%. 40% of all the money that the federal government collects comes from the top 1%. So you got to be very careful about killing the goose that laid the golden egg, right? Because people can move. When you tax people to death in New York, it's remote. They go to Florida. They go to Tennessee. They go to South Carolina, where there's no state income tax, okay? Now, the reason I'm so adamant about not taxing these rich people too much is not because I like them. I couldn't care less. If taxing them to the gills help the rest of society in a better way, then do it in a heartbeat. But it's sometimes the opposite. Let me give you an example. When I was in the state assembly, I was Democrat at the time in the Democratic caucus, and you had three factions within this caucus. Upstate Democrats, very conservative. Long Island and suburban Democrats, moderate. New York City Democrats, Marxist. They're really off the rails in New York City, okay? But a lot of those New York City Dems, publicly, they bash the guys from Wall Street. And they'd say, those greedy so-and-sos, let's tax them, etc., right? And what you heard from them privately when we were in the caucus, they were hoping and praying that those Wall Street guys got really big bonuses. You want to know why? Because when they got bigger bonuses, that's more money to tax. And what you find out is if you want to help poor people, you want them to make a lot of money because you can tax it, get money into the coffers, and then you can help poor people with that money, okay? But you find out that taxing people at 36% on $1 million gets you a lot more money than taxing them at 40% on $500,000. So you understand, you can lower the tax rate and bring more money into the coffers, because by lowering that tax rate, you're incentivizing investment, you're incentivizing the hiring of more people, and you're churning the economy. And all of a sudden, you got all this money. There's a myth out there that the deficit we face today, and it's about $2 trillion, it was as high as $4 trillion during COVID. I remember it was a big deal, it was $100 billion. It's now $2 trillion, okay? There's a myth that came about from the tax cuts of 2007, when taxes were cut not just for the rich, but across the board. That's a lie. There is a deficit, but it's because of the spending. They cannot control the spending. On both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican, they cannot control themselves. There was actually more money that came into the federal government after the tax cuts than before. It's counterintuitive. How can that be? But like I say, you cut taxes, people now invest the money. Look what they're talking about now. Oh, let's increase the corporate tax. Sounds great. Let's let those mean corporations pay the money. Why shouldn't you do it? Because when they increased the corporate tax to 35% years ago, what did the corporations do?
Sent it overseas.
They sent it to Ireland. Ireland's got 11% tax rate. Why am I keeping my money here? I'll go over there. When they cut that tax rate from 35% to 21%, $2 trillion came from overseas back to America. This is the way you have to look at this. And now they're saying, oh, we've got proposals to increase the capital gains, okay? What does that do? Does it get you more money? No, it gets you less money because people are investing less. And this holds true not just with the 2017 tax cuts. It's every time we implemented across-the-board tax cuts, starting with John F. Kennedy in the 1960s. They dramatically cut taxes across the board. It led to 5% growth each year over the next several years and a $54 billion increase in revenues. Same thing with the cuts in the 1980s. You wound up getting more revenue and higher wages. And then you even had it with the Clinton administration in the 90s. They raised income tax, which was a mistake in the early term, but then they cut the capital gains, you might remember, from a very high level down to about 15-20%. And what happened? You had a huge booming economy in the late 90s because of the dot-com boom, of course, but also because of the cut in the capital gains. So if you hear these politicians and these candidates saying, let's raise taxes, it'll bring in more revenue, and then we can take care of everyone, it's not the facts as they pan out. If you look at history, lowering taxes grows the economy. It's a bigger pie for everyone, and every economic strata gets better. When they cut those taxes in 2017, you hear the rhetoric, oh, the billionaires did so well. Well, so did the working class. So did the lower class and the middle class, because there really is a filtering down effect. There was a friend of mine who went to a party on Dune Road, not my little condo, but a $20 million mansion there last month, and they spent $100,000 just on the fireworks. Okay, it had to be a $500,000 party, and they're saying, "Oh my God, that was so terrible that they spent all the money. What you could do with that money?" But I said, "Well, understand something. Let's say you spent $500,000. Okay, the DJ sure liked it. The security people that they hired sure liked it. The caterers sure liked it. There really is a filtering down effect. Right, Joanne Sturcio, my favorite realtor? Okay? Absolutely. When the real estate market is booming, what happens? It's not just the realtor who's picking up the check at the closing. It's the lawyers, I know, we don't need to give them one, but home inspectors, the furniture companies, okay? The title closers. It's a tremendous filtering down effect. The point is, don't kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Explode the private sector. Give them incentives. You keep on hearing income equality and stuff. I don't care if I have equality with the guy next to me. I don't care if he's making a lot of money, as long as I am too. As long as I'm growing. Hey, Steve Jobs, you made $1 billion. Great, you deserve it. You sat in your garage, you created something that changed the world. Good for you. I want you to have the incentive to do better. If I want total equality, I'll go to North Korea. They're all equally poor and in horrible conditions. Look at South Korea, which has a vibrant free market economy. Look at it at night from outer space. North Korea is barren black, and down on South Korea it's lit up, it's vibrant. That's the difference between free market economies and these economies that care only about equality and punishing the people who want to strive and succeed. So I talk about that so that when you're hearing all of these politicians talk about, I'm gonna punish those big shots and those corporations and we're gonna sprinkle around to everybody else, just know that's not what's gonna happen. They're going to kill the goose that laid the golden egg. We as a nation became what we are because we incentivized people to grow in their station, to work hard, to save, to take some risk, and to be rewarded for those risks. If you take away the reward, no one's taking a risk. And if no one's taking a risk, you're North Korea. That's what we are. Okay, on that note, we're going to hand it over.
Again, thank you for leaving me speechless for like the second time in my life ever. Again, I just want to say, we were talking about mindset, and at times when we lower our expectations, we lower our results, right? And I don't know what I'm saying till I'm getting up here. I had nothing prepared. I'm just working off what he's saying. And mindset is very important. We must first believe that we can achieve it, and then only then can we take consistent action steps and never ever quit. So I want you guys to know, if you're suffering with some of the symptoms I had, some of the autoimmunes, and you've been to the doctor after doctor after doctor, and they're telling you this is the best that we can get you, I believe that there's another way out there, and just keep the faith and reach out to me. Mindset's very important. I like sharing stories because I think they're teaching moments. My grandma raised me, God rest her soul, and when she was 79, I was like a brand new nurse. And the doctors didn't think she'd ever walk again. And now she's looking up to me saying, do you ever think I'll walk again? And I knew I had to get to the root cause. I'm thinking, okay, what was the cause? Like, I'm a brand new nurse. I'm like, I don't even have experience yet. I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, all right, what do I have to get to the root cause? Okay, I was like, yes. And because I gave her that belief after the doctors didn't, she walked again. Only then, after I gave her the belief and the mindset, we took consistent daily action steps and just never ever quit. So it's very important to know that you can do it despite other people telling you you can't. They're wrong. People told me, you're never gonna write a book. When you change your name, nobody's gonna call you Shayna, right? They're all calling me Shayna now. I wrote a book. It reached #1 international bestseller. So don't believe people tell you, thank you, that you can't do it and you're not gonna do it. And don't listen to people that are less successful than you. It's like this. If you wanna go to Tony, you want to go to Menino's and you've never been there before, and you stop and ask for directions, and you get somebody, you guys ever ask for directions and the person's never been there, right? And they're trying to tell you how to get there? Don't listen to that person. They can't tell you how to get there if they've never been there. And a lot of you that might have some of the same symptoms I did, the exhaustion, the fatigue, the test showing they're normal, a lot of times your doctor is telling you how to get somewhere he's never been, you know? And then there's people online that maybe they had one problem like diabetes, and they're like, hey, I'm the expert, I help my own diabetes. I want you to know, not only am I a licensed healthcare pro for 30 years, I suffered with these symptoms. I've been researching it for years. I know what works, what doesn't work. And in all honesty, Doctors, I have nothing against them, but they go to medical school to practice medicine, and that's what they know. They're not taught about the power of the plant and naturopathy and root causes and cellular inflammation and how to attack it and how to reduce toxins. They're not taught that stuff in medical school. Sometimes we gotta go back to the root because that's where it's at. You know, when my grandma taught me naturopathy, raising me in the 70s, I watched her not eat a blood pressure pill, not eat a heart pill, eating the bananas for the magnesium, and things like that. And sometimes we got to go back to the roots because you know what? There was things that we got better from before there was pharmaceuticals. And I dare you guys to Google Rockefeller and how medicine started. And your minds will be blown away at how they just wiped away naturopathy. You know, I don't know what more can I say. Mindset is very important. Believe to achieve. Just never ever quit. Only take advice from people that are further along than you or more successful to you, or somebody that's been there, done that, that can tell you how to get there, right? I don't know. I'm sure you guys took directions from people you never knew, right? That never been there. And you go into Tony's Pizza and they're like, maybe it's a left, maybe it's a right. I don't know. It might be a mile ahead, or at the next light, make a left. And they can't tell you how to get there if they've never been. So stop listening to those people. Stop listening to the naysayers that tell you you can't. Sometimes your friends might be more supportive than your family. You know, sometimes the family is last to come along. So just keep the mindset. Reach out to people who have been where you want to go to tell you how to get there. And just know there's more than modern medicine. Because in all honesty, when I had excruciating nerve pain, and there was two types of docs for the most part. Ones that just want to give you narcotics every month coming back, or ones that just want to do expensive procedures that they know aren't going to work and aren't going to get rid of your nerve pain. And I didn't want that, you know, and I knew there had to be more out there. And to this day, I've never seen medication get rid of nerve pain. But you know what? I don't have any nerve pain anymore. I couldn't even touch my hair. My nerve pain was so bad. I have no more pain, and I've never seen prescription drugs ever do that. So we have to look at the root causes. When we look at the root causes, the symptoms stop from getting worse and usually reverse. And when they reverse, the symptoms go away. And when the symptoms go away, you don't need meds for symptoms that aren't there. And when you're not on the meds, you're not getting the side effects, the interactions, the dependencies, the overdoses, and the deaths. So, you know, we need to go back to where we were. Sometimes modern medicine is not always better. I'm not saying we don't need it. And I prescribe it too when I need it, but I look for natural remedies when possible. And that's where, if you guys don't know these terms, I want to give you some gold nuggets. Not only mindset is important, but I use naturopathy when possible, plant-based. I use holistic approach, body, mind, spirit, cellular level. I use integrative medicine, where I can integrate in alternatives to your existing meds, or meds to your alternatives. I'm not saying just this or that. I'm saying I look at you as an individual, and modern medicine a lot of times is if this, do that, if this, do that. And they're not looking at what you're allergic to, what your family history is, what you've tried. They just do simple algorithms. I don't do that. I treat my people like individual, like I want to know what they tried, what they didn't try, what tests they had. And it's not a simple algorithm. And I don't know how they give everyone the same, I don't know, Lipitor 20 milligrams if you're 100 pounds or 250 pounds. This makes no sense to me. And now the statins are linked to higher risks of early Alzheimer's and Parkinson's because we need cholesterol for our nervous system. But sometimes the pharmaceutical companies, they're just telling us what they want to tell us and what they think we want to hear, not necessarily what we need. So you got to realize who you're talking to and whose interests they're out for. If you're talking to a surgeon, he might just want to order a surgery, you know, or he might be the honest surgeon that says, you know what, you don't need it. But you gotta take it with a grain of salt, and are they just trying to sell you something to get you back for an easy bit? So I want you guys to know from the bottom of my heart, I'm not trying to just, you know, sell you something. I can make easily 6 and 7 figures keeping you sick every month, coming back from that oxy, coming back from that trigger point injection that you don't need, you know, doing biopsies that you don't need, selling you most procedures when something's probably benign. But I'm not going to do that. So, you know, my wallet's suffering from it, so please buy the book. But I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I just want to get you better, so then you're like, when do you want to see me again? So I just leave you with that. No, keep your mindset, believe to achieve, reach out to somebody that's been there, done that. If you don't like your doctor's opinion, get a second opinion, a third opinion, a specialist, reach out to me. I do virtual visits, consults, things like that. I have some upcoming events, just so you guys know. Sunday, you're all welcome. This is complimentary self-defense. This man right here, Joe Thompson, he owns Lockdown BJJ in Ronkonkoma. He's a former Marine and he wanted to give back to the healthcare pros. I had a situation a couple months ago where I was almost sexually assaulted, and I reached out to the police department several times to offer self-defense, and the sheriff's department, to no avail. So I took it upon myself. I met this former Marine. He's a black belt, an MMA champion, fighter. He's a 3-time world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is offering a free complimentary self-defense class on Sunday at noon at Lockdown BJJ in Ronkonkoma. You guys are all welcome to go. We're not going to cite anything after that. If you want to go to his gym after, you can. I have a burnout prevention and recovery. A lot of us are burning out. We're working more hours than we ever wanted to. We're not making that deeper impact. I have a workshop coming up, Reigniting from Burnout Prevention and Recovery. That's also free. That's at the Sachem Library on Tuesday the 27th at 7. You guys can grab one of these flyers on the way out. You don't have to be a library member or a local resident to attend that. And then the other thing that I'm very, very, very passionate about right here, you guys can scan the QR code. There's a lot of you that might know people that are suffering with the symptoms that I had, or you guys might be suffering yourself and might not want to tell me right here, right now. And I just want to bridge the gap for you to let you know that sometimes it's not the medical doctor that's going to get you the results you need, because they go to medical school to practice medicine. You know, it's not their fault. That's what they're taught. But there's a lot of other things out there than just prescription big pharma. So I created this program at Wellness Warriors, and we're going to have an upcoming event. I believe it's October 3rd. It's on the flyer as well down here. And you guys are all more than welcome to join. There's a coupon code reclaim. And that's going to be a virtual event for those of you that either are suffering with symptoms or know someone that is, and you just want to bridge the gap, because you don't want to leave them feeling helpless and hopeless. There's so many out there. Like I said, autoimmune disorders, there's over 100 of them, and it's one of the leading causes of death in young to middle-aged women. And prescription drugs is another leading cause of death. And what do we put people on with autoimmune disorders? Prescription drugs, right? So sometimes the drugs can help us and sometimes they can kill us. And it's important for us to know that. And if you're not feeling better, push it further. Say, hey doc, can we order another test? Can we check for you for autoimmune disorders? Can we check inflammation markers? Can you send me to a specialist? Or you know what, I'm done with medicine. Just send me to Shayna. Just like, let me go to her, you know. I do virtual visits, classes, courses, workshops as well. And there's a lot of gold nuggets in the book, Overcoming Life Obstacles, about how I overcame my own heart failure, and now my former cardiologist that I used to meet is my client. And so I think that speaks volumes when my former doctors are now my clients. Some of them are open and some just want to keep you safe. And I don't want to ramble on any longer because I'm probably out like 8 minutes or something like that. So I thank you guys very, very much for coming. I hope you get the books, you enjoy them, you come to our upcoming events, and make sure you put your email down so we can send you our upcoming invites and special savings and things like that.
And we'll take like 5 minutes of comments or questions or anything, or if not, we'll just start signing some books and let people finish eating and hang out if they want. But any comments or questions from the peanut gallery here?
Yes. What's the actual definition of an autoimmune disorder?
Oh, see, this is the problem right here. When you have an autoimmune disorder, there's not a blood test you can go for that's going to show it. There's over 100 different autoimmune disorders, and a lot of the symptoms I have